Wisteria, energy, twister.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ghost Tales of Essex. This one's called The Devil on Wallasea Island. I looked across the bleak expanse of Wallasea Island one dismal day recently and wondered where it had stood. The haunted old edifice they called the Devil's House. It's long gone now, swept away in the great tidal flood of 1953. And perhaps its demons and devils went too as the sea water swept over the whole of Wallasea Island. The Devil's House was officially known as Tile Barn, a farmhouse with an enormous barn which was reputed to be haunted by either the devil or some kind of terrifying demon. People recalled that sometimes the cattle in the stockyard seemed to go mad, and at these times it said that the devil was there, stirring up the animals with his fork. Indeed, once in 1938, a herd of cattle charged the stockyard gates and stampeded over the marsh, as if the devil were indeed after them. At one time, the farm was occupied by Mother Redcap, a notorious local witch, whose real name was Granny Smith. And in his book, Ghosts and Witches, James Wentworth the day reported a conversation he had with an old labourer who had worked there. He said that a mate of his found himself thrown out of bed and hauled downstairs one night while they were staying at the farm, and he had no idea how it had happened. The old devil was strong as a horse, was his comment. The same man had another strange experience one night as he was rowing across the creek from Fownes Island. Coming over the water in the moonlight, he saw Mother Redcap riding along on a wooden hurdle. She didn't have no oars, but she travelled same as if she were in a boat, he said. A woman whose family occupied the farm when she was a child never forgot her own experience there. She was playing one day in a room with a very high ceiling and noticed that it was becoming icy cold, which was strange as it was a warm summer's day. Then she heard a sound like wings beating high up in the ceiling, which frightened her, so she ran to tell her mother. But when they returned, the sound had stopped. She was playing there again the next day, and before long, the same icy chill came over the room, and again she heard a sound like the movement of huge wings, flapping high up in the room. They seemed to be moving slowly at first, then gradually beating more and more quickly, causing a strong current of cold air. Terrified, she called for her mother. This time her mother, too, heard the uncanny noise, and after that the room was kept locked. Some time later, when the house was fully occupied at harvest time, a married sister and a baby came to stay, and there was only one vacant room available, the former playroom. Knowing nothing of the previous happenings, she went there to sleep, but later emerged terrified. She had woken to find the room becoming not only bitterly cold, but with a terrifying sense of evil, and when she too heard the sound of huge wings beating high up in the air, she rushed from the room in a panic. The farmer investigated, intent on finding some rational explanation. He examined the chimney, which seemed perfectly normal. There was no sign of any hidden area behind the walls. But as he worked, he too was conscious of increasing cold and a mounting sensation of fear that made him get out in a hurry. And once again, the room was locked and kept closed. No one used that room again until the First World War, when some soldiers were put up at the farm. They slept in the old barn, but their sergeant asked for a room in the house. There was only one room available, the one they kept locked. And without saying too much about it, the family tried to discourage him from sleeping there, but the sergeant wouldn't be put off. However, next morning he was found sleeping on the floor outside the room. He looked pale and refused his breakfast and made some excuse about the bed being too soft. There were always stories about the Devil's House in Wallasea area. Some said the place was haunted by old Mother Redcap's familiar, and others swore they had seen the devil himself looking out of the window of the haunted room, horns and all. One particularly sinister tale concerned a farm labourer who was passing the barn one day when he heard someone call his name. He went inside, but there seemed to be nobody about. Then he suddenly began to feel strange, and, as if in a dream, he picked up a length of rope and tied it round his neck. A voice was whispering, "Do it, do it, do it," and he felt an irresistible urge to hang himself. He looked up, ready to throw the end of the rope over a beam, and there, looking down at him, was a creature out of a nightmare. It was black with gleaming yellow eyes, looked something like an ape. The shock brought him back to normal, and he threw down the rope and fled for his life. When Eric Maple was researching witchcraft in Essex, he discovered that a long time ago the house was called Deville's House, after the owner, a man called Deville. A cynic might say, look no further. Obviously the name has been corrupted by superstitious and gullible people in the Devil's House. But further research revealed that, although a Frenchman called Deville had owned the house at the time of Charles II, even then it was known as the Devil's Tenement. No doubt the old tales about this mysterious old farmhouse on Wallasea Island lost nothing in telling, and anyway, the flood swept it away long ago. Yet stories persist, and the devil has been seen on Wallasea marshes. And on wild winter nights, when the moon gleams on the water and the wind howls across the island like a banshee, who could say for certain that they are wrong? The end. And that's the end of that tale. Don't think it was the devil, by the way. Not saying they didn't see something or encounter something, but I don't think it was the devil. That's my opinion. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Hit the like, share if you can, and do consider subscribing. Many blessings.
Wisteria. Energy. Twister.